The deal struck by the Colombian government and the narco-terrorist group Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia, known as the FARC, is simply the triumph of the terrorists, whose crimes have been whitewashed, just as the millions of dollars they have made through kidnapping, drug trafficking, illegal mining, and murders have been laundered. The government spent a great portion of the national budget promoting this deal, and since then, the terrorists have been dedicated to the typical activity of communists: propaganda. With unblushing gall, they create hell and call it paradise, with the complicity of the government, their ally. Let's listen to the government's chief negotiator.
La verdad es que tenemos que trabajar es allí, en la mente de los niños sobre todo, para que la paz sea firme. Permítanme que lo diga casi que en el chip de los colombianos, que es donde tenemos que instalar las ideas de reconciliación. Hay que decirle adiós a la guerra, hay que tener coraje para esto.
They wish to prevent future generations from remembering the atrocities committed by the terrorists. Indoctrination to achieve submission. It's worth remembering that for Socrates, knowledge and learning were nothing more than remembering.
No a la violencia. El esquema en Colombia ha sido el de la justificación implícita de la violencia de quienes dicen que la justicia social se logra por las armas, o la violencia de quienes piensan que nada debe cambiar y para eso utilizan los fusiles. Ambas visiones hay que condenarlas y borrarlas de la mente de los niños.
According to this negotiator, terrorist acts are equivalent to the state's efforts to liberate kidnapped victims or prevent massacres, and the implementation of a communist regime is just a response to social need, a notion that is nothing more than terrorist propaganda. What must not change, and what this government has changed, is the democratic system. It has been abolished in Colombia. It is what they call peace. The FARC have already started this task. Let's take a look, for example, at this poem, for lack of a better word. There are more of us who support peace and life. Now these sociopaths who have killed more than 200,000 innocent Colombians purport to be supporters of peace and life. Does anyone remember the human bombs that they would force or trick into blowing up near police stations to kill officers? Does anyone remember the sieges against towns and villages, like when they bombed a church in Bojayá? Or the thousands of girls they forcibly recruited, raped, and forced to abort as a routine pattern and practice? By saying that they support peace and life, these murderers are committing another crime. They are lying with these saccharine words with the same cold blood with which they murdered so many innocent people. What they mean is that the crimes they committed in order to come to power are the fault of those who did not help them take that power, something that President Juan Manuel Santos has facilitated. They have not expressed any remorse, let alone a mea culpa. The criminals have won, and their triumph has been labeled peace. There are a few who impose death and perfidy. That at least is true. The narco-terrorists are a minority, even less numerous than that which sustains their accomplice Santos in power. We are going to wipe them off the face of the planet. Now that's what they really want to say. They would have us believe, incorrectly, that those who oppose them are not the overwhelming majority of Colombians, but a small minority that they will exterminate. Communists have always murdered even more people after their ascent to power. If they've taken a break from killing these days, it's because they have been busy taking over the army and the police forces. So those who love peace and life are going to wipe anyone who gets in their way off the face of the planet. That's what they've been doing for decades, only now they'll do a lot more of it. We're going to put an end to this war forever. What narco-terrorists call war is anything that impedes them from killing whoever they want. They want an absolute victory and the complete submission of Colombian society, a goal they've achieved in large measure thanks to Santos and his accomplices in Colombia and abroad. Then we'll build a new Colombia. After wiping everyone that gets in their way off the face of the planet, they will build paradise according to the communist model, which in every case has established terror regimes and led to poverty and starvation. Colombia is at risk of becoming the next Cambodia. This band of killers has multiplied its assets, expanding their cocaine production thanks to the Santos government. With so much wealth, They can buy the majority of Colombia's judges, military and police personnel, politicians, journalists, and entertainers. It is up to the outside world to pay attention, because there is no longer any resistance to the advance of organized crime within the country. The terrorist known as Timochenko announces more crimes, phrased in flowery and cynical language. And while these terrorists and their supporters destroy Colombia and continue to enrich themselves, they prepare the next phase of domination. We must condemn this propaganda. It is nothing more than the continuation of their crimes. The genocide must be remembered. Crimes must be punished, and the rule of law must be upheld. The Santos government is nothing more than an appendix to this band of terrorists and their Cuban sponsors.